The Balmoral Arms factory will not be an easy assault. Soft voice intoned. Protected by large shields, automated defenses and some of the Resistance's most highly trained soldiers, it will know. Point of order. The Admiral interrupted, Veta rolling her eyes. That marked the third time the man had said that in 20 minutes. It is believed that most, if not all, Resistance forces stationed in the Balmoral Arms factory are former Republic soldiers. She looked at the two Inosians stationed at the door, both glaring at the Admiral. They'd been getting progressively more irritated as the man kept interrupting their glorious leader. She contemplated needling, but this meeting had gone on for too long already. Especially since they'd been getting nothing done. Darth, whatever her name was, had given them additional soldiers for the assault. Those soldiers unfortunately answered to an admiral, who had then promptly brought no less than 10 of his officers to this small, cramped meeting room. Those officers had then started second-guessing every decision, arguing over trivial agenda points and generally not contributing at all to the actual meeting. Morgan shuffled beside her, showing her his datapad. If that man says point of order one more time, I'm killing him. I doubt Lacris will miss him overly much, seeing as she sent him here instead of helping her crush the rest of the planet-wide rebellion. She snorted, unfortunately pulling the attention of the most critical, vocal Imperial she'd ever met. Silence. This is a military matter, and you should be thanking your betters to be allowed in the room at all. The rebuke didn't invite the usual indignation it would have, mostly because the man had immediately collapsed to his knees, grasping at his throat. Morgan shook his head, looking directly at the Admiral. A racist Imperial, how shocking. Control your men, or they will be controlled for you. The Admiral glared, folding his arms. I answer to a Darth, Sith. You do not get to give me orders. Soft voice cleared his throat, spreading his arms in a peaceful gesture. You do, however, answer to me for the duration of this assault. Your officers will show tolerance and decorum. Most of the officers had gone pale, noticing how the two Sith guards had taken a step forward. Astra whispered something to Kripar. He shook his head sadly, the reply lost to Veta's ears as he waved off the two men. As I was saying. Soft voice continued smoothly. This assault will not be an easy one. The first and most critical part of this operation will be the deactivation of the shields. Seeing as they were designed to withstand orbital bombardment, this assault will grind to a halt should they remain active. As such, Mad Mouse and his team will infiltrate and destroy its generators during the first phase of the main assault. Morgan nodded beside her, Quinn to his right. The lieutenant had been mostly silent so far, only speaking up now that they were getting to the actual planning. Apologies, my lords. It would be more effective to place the secondary armored division in staggered formations. They will likely employ Stinger missiles, which would destroy most of the tanks should they not be properly spaced in this sort of terrain. Veta nodded thoughtfully, wondering if the Admiral could get any redder. Soft voice was taking it seriously, though, merely making adjustments to the operations map as the lieutenant spoke. Perhaps it would also be better to not employ jump troopers during this engagement, my lords. The aerial advantage would be offset by the height of the facility in question, and previous skirmishes spoke up numerous well-trained snipers. These will doubtlessly be employed here, leading to the unit's wholesale destruction. One of the officers reddened, looking through the stack of reports in front of her. The woman nodded to the Admiral soon after, merely taking the jump troopers off the map with a flick of her finger. Quinn broke in several more times, merely adjusting the assault plan as he did, and soon enough even the Admiral was reluctantly nodding along. It heralded the end of the meeting, to her great relief, Morgan staying behind to talk to his friend. She, meanwhile, had other plans. Morgan blinked as he entered the room. The door clicked shut behind him, locking without his notice. Veta was dancing, swaying and twisting as she moved through the room. He followed the spin of the Leku as it twirled, briefly mesmerized. The room was well lit, the hollow display letting out soft, melodious music. Morgan frowned, contemplated if he was still dreaming, then cleared his throat. She turned smoothly, her chest swaying as she smiled. Her hands traced her hips, drawing attention to 3 strings that served as her underwear. "Oh, hi. Don't mind me. You just caught me practicing." "Practicing what, exactly?" "I have something to tell you, by the way." "My heritage," Veta said secretively, her leku bouncing again as she twisted. "I usually practice alone, but I trust you enough to observe. A great privilege." Morgan sighed, having to force his heartbeat under control with fleshcrafting. "And why are you doing that in what could generously be called swimwear?" "Tradition," she scolded. "Don't be culturally insensitive." "Would it surprise you to learn I've studied Twi'lek culture?" Morgan asked curiously. Veta stuttered, catching herself with a twirl that just so happened to give him a great look at her ass. He thanked his foresight to have come here with his hormones blocked, or that might have very well caused him to say something rash. "A curiosity since we've met. Anyway, Twi'lek do have dance as part of their culture. It does not, however, involve being practically naked." Veta slowed, scowling at him. He held up his hands in surrender. All right. I'm not that thick. I'm just trying not to read into things." She stepped closer, her eyes dipping to look at his crotch. "Do you need to try? At this point I'm pretty sure you're either gay or asexual. I'm stripping in my underwear and you're not even hard." She narrowed her eyes, glaring. "Unless Quinn was right and you're suppressing your hormones." He kept a flash of guilt and alarm from his face, Veta throwing up her hands anyway. "Why, in the goddess's name, would you do that?" He grinned despite himself, Veta looking adorable as she scowled. "Quinn's fired. A general sense of self-preservation? Horniness has been known to cause stupidity, and as I said, I'm really trying not to read into things here." She glared, the flash of hurt in her eyes wiping any trace of humor from him. "Sorry. Look, it's a bad idea. The fact you work for me, however nominal, is bad enough. The power imbalance alone would be hilarious if it didn't make me feel like shit, never mind that it could break everything." Veta's glare softened. "Break what? Now who's being thick? You're the only one that still treats me like a person. Who I can laugh with, complain to. Quinn's a soldier, assigned to my command. Soft voice is my friend, but he has his own thing going on. His own missions. Let's not even talk about the Enosis. I don't want to wake up one day to find out I can't take off the mask of Morgan, the Fleshcrafter Lord." He slathered the title with sarcasm, Veta rolling her eyes. "And that's a certainty, is it?" He made to talk again, Veta stepping forward. She pressed a kiss to his lips, Morgan freezing in surprise. "There. Situation simplified." She looked at him seriously. "Denial didn't work for me. I'm not in my underwear because the power imbalance puts me off. Quite the opposite, really. Do you know anything about what I'm implying?" Morgan rolled his eyes, seeing the gesture reflected in her iris. His brain decided to ignore the kiss to focus on the conversation, knowing he would probably spiral otherwise. "We did have the internet, yes. You'll have to be really out there for me to not at least know about it." Veta stepped back, sighing. "I'll just go ahead and say it then, yes? I like you. I'm submissive, I'm hoping you're dominant, I'm really horny and I have the feeling this is all very new territory for you." Morgan closed his eyes, easing off his hormone blockage. Getting that right had been a pain, and now he was doubting if he had ever needed it in the first place. When he opened his eyes he saw Veta looking uncharacteristically nervous, realizing he'd just closed his eyes after she took a leap of faith. "Fuck, sorry. I just took off my hormone block. You're right on the last count, at least. I don't know what I am, but my search history does tend to suggest being dominant, yes." Morgan smiled, burning affection surging through him as he shrugged off his last emotion suppressors. Veta grinned, starting to sway in place. "I'm really trying to take this slow. Well, slow for me, anyway. I'm the kind of girl that takes what she wants, but I can make an exception just this once." Morgan nodded, lost as the conversation caught up with him. So, now what? Now I explain, we set boundaries, and then I'm hoping to have a very fun night. Not to be a bore, but did you happen to think about a condom last night? Or, a dozen. Morgan gagged on his drink as a soldier missed her step, glaring at her. Be louder, I don't think they heard you on the other side of the building. Veta shrugged. I'm not ashamed. Are you? Ashamed? No. Feeling the need to talk about it, loudly, where everyone can hear? Also no. To answer that very nonchalant, not at all serious question, I don't need one. I'm infertile until I decide not to be, she laughed, skipping ahead. Flesh grafting sure has a lot of applications in the bedroom. Wonder if that's why they came up with it. He nodded sagely, but teacher interrupted before he could come up with something suitably sarcastic. We need to talk. Veta drew back, horrified. Oh no, your wife found out. Quick, everyone for themselves. She sped off as the cube floated from his customary pouch, turning to him with an accusatory tilt. Sweet mercy, she broke you. This better not cut into your training time. Morgan shrugged, altering course to an empty training room. It seems so. Not to worry, I'll just tie her up when she gets too distracting. Should cool her off while I train. Forget I got involved. Teacher shuddered. I have no wish to hear about your mammalian exploits. He shrugged. As you wish. What did you want to talk about? The cube floated to the middle of the room, Morgan shutting the door. Your training. My training? It's been going fine. Sparred with Darth Lacris a few days ago, gave me some good ideas for improving my shield. Yes, teacher hissed. Darth Lacris, not your own master. What, exactly, has he taught you? Morgan tilted his head. Nothing? I'm really not that surprised. I've been killing his apprentices, informants and spies for months. The kind of people with years or even decades of service to the man. The second I've outlived my usefulness, I'm next. The cube floated closer. And you're fine with that? Yes? I'm not just going to let him kill me, of course, but it's pretty much what I expected. I'm his enforcer and assassin, an apprentice only in name. Teacher scoffed. And you think you're going to learn enough to resist him, to stop him, on your own? Before he figures out you're growing too strong? Nope. If only I had an experienced teacher, a scrappy, street-smart sidekick and Sith allies. Oh, and growing ties to the military. Alas, I am doomed. The cube stayed silent. Morgan sighed. Fine, yes. I've recently seen just how powerful a Darth is. Yes, Barras will kill me if I grow too strong. No, I don't have a foolproof plan to get out of it. Yes, I'm working on it. Spare me your sarcasm, teacher said quietly. Strengthen your ties with the military further. Many an arrogant Sith Lord has suffocated in space, refusing to believe mere mortals' ships could harm them. Sit, and pay attention. Morgan sat, folding his legs under him. They can only kill you if they can find you. Your control makes you well suited for a number of disciplines, flesh grafting being by far the most versatile. Stealth is another, one that has not fit your skill set until now. Tell no one, and I mean no one, that you're learning this. Not Veta. Not that hulking friend of yours. No one. I trust both of them, he rebuked. Teacher laughed. It is not about trust. A secret shared is no secret at all, and this must remain a secret above all else. I will not teach you how to blend with the environment. No. You will learn to become invisible in the Force itself. Appearing, to even the most skilled practitioners, as just another civilian. Your master finds out, gets even the slightest suspicion, he will kill you. Morgan nodded. I get your point, I really do. But trust is what defines us. Why the Enosis can exist. Teacher sighed. You and your healthy relationships. It's just until you have mastered the art. Until you learn to hide from even the Dark Council. Veta does not have the Force, but your friend does. Barras is, however, very unlikely to have spent the time linking himself to what was his name? Soft something. Soft voice. Zethix. Morgan answered. How long will it take to learn? What's linking? If it was anyone but you, I'd say a decade. Creating a link between two Force users is a way of communication. The Jedi use it to send feelings, and in some extreme cases, memories, over vast distances. Vast as in half the known galaxy, vast. It takes time, years and years of close proximity and bonding, to achieve. Most often found between a Padawan and Master. Barras has learned to ape this, in its crudest form. I can feel it on you. How it tethers your soul. He knows where you are. And he will keep knowing until you learn to hide. Now stimulate the Force, and blend. Let the Force settle around you like a blanket, hiding all from view. Hours passed in pseudo-meditation, trying to hide his apparently glaring signature from sight. Morgan finally opened his eyes, standing. I can practice on my own from here. Blending should be easy enough to do anywhere. Remember to not actually hide. Teacher stressed. Even if it's vanishingly unlikely, you'll be able to for years to come. He held up his hand. I'll remember. Gods, haven't felt this incompetent in months. The cube floated back to the pouch, getting the last word in as he dimmed. Almost like you're learning a new discipline. Morgan snorted as he opened the door, finding a surprised Quinn about to knock. Morgan hid his own surprise with long practice, raising an eyebrow. Yes? The lieutenant straightened. Sir. I wish to ask for a favor. I'm all ears, Lieutenant. Quinn coughed, more awkward than Morgan had ever seen him. It's the men, sir. They wish to spar. I'm able to snap steel, Morgan said dryly. Doesn't sound like the best of ideas. The lieutenant nodded, shuffling. I told them that. I can't disagree with their reasoning, however. That Jedi you faced, we were useless against her. Sparring with another Force user might give us the edge to assist in the future. There are very, very few people who can beat a Jedi Knight, Lieutenant, never mind doing so without the Force. Who came up with this idea? Quinn stiffened slightly. It was a group decision. I'm sure it was. Who proposed the group decision? It was Ensign Gillens, sir. Morgan sighed. Of course. Lead on, Lieutenant. He walked somewhat behind the man, taking the time to contemplate the soldier. Quinn was, by definition, the spy. Well, maybe not yet. I've no idea if Barras has already ordered him to start spying, or that he will wait until Quinn is part of the crew. They walked through a door, a startled squad of green troops saluting as they passed. The lieutenant is nothing like how I remember. An imperial loyalist, to be sure, but no elitist. He's good to his men, competent and easygoing. Morgan smiled slightly, remembering yesterday's meeting. I've no trouble believing he was a rising star before Druckenwell. So that's the rub, isn't it? He nodded to an Enosis member, one he didn't know by name. The man flushed, bowing. New recruit, if I don't know him. Two choices. I treat Quinn as if he's going to spy on and betray me. He will feel ostracized, starting to resent me. Far more likely to betray me than not, at that point. I don't treat him any differently, he spies on and betrays me. Morgan looked at the back of the man's head, wondering. But that doesn't take into account the changes. Veta isn't the same, nor would I wish her to be. Barras is, well, Barras. Still, this is a living, breathing galaxy. They came to the training hall. Ensign Gillens was pacing, the rest of the squad lined up before him. Morgan followed the lieutenant inside, nodding to himself as he came to the only real choice. Judge by action, not suspicion. I suppose we'll see. He focused, watching Gillens pace. He had never been the most involved member of the military, but even he had found it strange their second in command was a rookie. He hadn't commented on it, and in fact the squad hierarchy seemed far less rigid than expected, but ever since his attempt at therapy Gillens had changed. He'd actually missed it, at first. The soft conversations between him and Horace. The intensity of his training, above what even Quinn expected of them. How the rest of the men had fallen in line, one by one, until even Horace played along with a quiet sigh. Gillen saluted as they came inside, the flash of tangled feeling overlaid by or churning his stomach. The Enosis weren't half this bad. But then, his mind whispered. They can shield their emotions. Who knows what they really feel? Ensign. Quinn tells me this exercise was your idea? Sir. I believe it would help prepare us to face Jedi, sir. Morgan settled his attention over the room, careful to keep it down. Fleshcrafters could inflate their presence far above most. A useful trick, but here he just wanted their full, undivided attention. Next time we meet that Jedi, Ensign, I expect you to make any and all effort to disengage and retreat. Mutinous protest flashed through the man, Morgan holding up his hand. That is not an insult to you or the men, Gillens. Jedi Knights are some of the most dangerous entities in this galaxy, however peaceful they may be. I do agree that we cannot always have what we want, to prepare for the worst. As such, the exercise. He stepped closer to the ensign, looking him in the eye. Be warned. Glorious displays of loyalty mean nothing to me. Do your job, get out alive. That last bit is most important, so focus on it. Everything, everyone, learns from failure. Everyone but the dead. I prefer a failed objective but a better soldier over a dead soldier with a completed objective. Is that clear, Ensign Gillens? The man snapped another salute, the row of men behind him mimicking the motion with rigid precision. Morgan let the pressure drop, stepping back as they breathed a quiet sigh of relief. Good. Now, set your blasters to training grade 4 and set up over at that wall. Quinn took over as Morgan walked to the other side of the room, leaving his lightsaber unignited. The objective of this exercise is to hit me. I will begin with evasion, blocking only when needed. Should you manage to overwhelm me, I will start to redirect attacks back to you. Begin when ready. Quinn barked an order, drawing his sidearm as blasters went up. Morgan leaned out of the way, stepping calmly as blaster fire impacted the wall behind him. Seconds passed until the lieutenant barked at them to spread their fire, eyes narrowed. Morgan focused, his areas of movement shrinking as they started to anticipate his motion. His lightsaber snapped to his hand some 10 seconds after, redirecting a bolt into the ceiling. He was forced to deflect more as Quinn focused their fire, systematically boxing him in. It was another 20 seconds before a bolt slipped past, burning a hole through his shirt and leaving a slight red welt on his shoulder. Morgan smirked, starting to reflect the attacks back to them. They spread out, covering half the room as Morgan dodged and twisted, occasionally sending a bolt back. They splashed harmlessly against their armor, only standing down when enough damage was dealt to kill them. Quinn ordered a halt another minute after that, Morgan's torso covered in angry red marks. He spread out his arms, smiling. An excellent attempt. Restricting movement, covering multiple angles and limiting return fire. You might just be some of the best soldiers I've stood against. I can feel your pride, and you should be proud. These skills are hard won. He clipped the lightsaber to his belt, pulling a marker from his pocket. Pride should never become arrogance. I do this not to humiliate or discourage, but to give you understanding. He moved, holding back most of his strength as Quinn was smashed against the wall. He drew a black line over his throat before he could gasp, dropping the man. Morgan turned, tackling Gillens as he received a similar line over his throat. Horace backpedaled, aiming his blaster. Morgan glided to the side, grabbing the weapon from his hands and throwing it to the soldier taking aim some ways away. The men went down groaning as Horace lost his life. None managed to score any hits as he killed them, careful to do little more than bruise. The room was covered in groaning soldiers after some seconds, Morgan putting the cap back on the pen and pocketing it. These Jedi are trained for war. They will not hesitate. They will not flinch. They are my equal, if not more so. He looked Quinn in the eye, the man climbing back to his feet. If you meet one, retreat. Morgan stepped back, looking the room over. Same time tomorrow. We have 3 days before the assault. You will be ready. Veta hummed a quiet tune as she cut the last wire, Greta giving her a thumbs up as the cameras cut off. She once knew a guy that could have looped the images so smoothly they could have been in and out before anyone caught on. This wasn't a high-skill grab job, however, so killing the cameras would be good enough. The giant army outside should serve as plenty of distraction. Greta offered her hand to pull her from the wall's guts, her voice crackling over the radio. Cameras down, proceeding. They moved down the hall, meeting no resistance as they cut through yet another security door by overloading the console. Morgan and the rest of the men were breaking through the defenses around the generators, she and Greta having split off at the start to cut off the enemy's eyes. Best to keep them guessing as long as possible, in her opinion. Quinn had agreed. With the cameras down, they were moving to link up, dropping down a shaft to avoid a hallway filled with turrets. The infiltration had gone far smoother than she had anticipated, really. A traitor had given them schematics, helpfully informed them about an old smuggler's tunnel that everyone had forgotten about, and only wanted a way off the planet in return. His information was accurate, to her surprise. A rarity with turncoats. Using the tunnel had undercut the shield rather effectively. She shook her head. They really should have been more thorough. The resistance had, annoyingly, embedded all their electronics deep in the wall, forcing her and Greta to split off and find the connection point between them and the rest of the base. Quinn had pointed out that, since the generators were so important, they would run in a contained system. He'd been right, as usual. They had left one point where the wires connected, so by snipping it the resistance was blind down here. Horace had grunted that with a building this old, and with the increased pressure on the resistance, it was a miracle there was only one weak point in the system. They'd undoubtedly send people down here eventually, their cameras mysteriously dying far too suspicious, but it would be low priority compared to the army outside. She bent open the grate in her way, hopping out of the shaft and looking at her display. Only 2 hallways from the team's position, perfect. Greta crawled out, dusting off her blaster. This is going quite smo. Veta bonked her over the head. Shush. You can think it, but no speaking out loud. She got an annoyed scowl in return. Or, since her helmet hid her expression, a grateful smile filled with adoration. She was pretty sure it was a scowl. Shrugging, and setting a good pace down the hall, she turned the corner and froze. A giant door locked off the hall, one that was not on their schematics. No console was in sight, and it seemed to be made of military-grade durasteel. Her eyes roved over the plans. There. 2 levels up and through an, fuck that's a mess hall. All right, it's fine. Hopefully no one is having lunch. Though the mess hall and down another shaft. Should get us past the door. Greta nodded, so they got moving again. The room was indeed empty, save for a terrified cook that fainted when Greta pointed her blaster at him. Veta shrugged, broke through a cheap, shitty padlock keeping the storage closet closed and pointed down at the floor. Smash. Her companion set a small, coned grenade on the floor, both of them backing off as it tore a hole through the thick ferrocrete. She hopped in, slowing her fall as Greta balanced on her shoulders. Not the most dignified way down, but she was the only one strong enough to slow their descent. Faster than using a rope, anyway. They detonated another low-yield hole maker at the bottom, her own special name for the very boring, technically named grenades, and then she was looking at the other side of the giant door. She checked the time, saw they were only 4 minutes behind schedule, and picked up the pace. Soon enough they were running through rooms and hallways marked by battle, lightsaber-touched corpses littering the floor. Her breath hitched as they caught up, finding Morgan walking forwards as the lieutenant ordered his men back. 2 robed individuals were blocking the only way inside the generator room. One of which she recognized. The night that had run after the ambush, still the only time she had gotten to use her Beskar bullets. She'd had backup back then too. Morgan had told her it had been a Padawan. A trainee. Veta didn't judge this new companion of hers to be a Padawan. Not at all, Morgan sighed as the two robed strangers dropped from the ceiling. He had hoped to avoid the Jedi. But hope rarely beat planning. Lieutenant, you know what to do. Quinn nodded, quiet orders passing around as the men retreated. Morgan nodded politely to the two strangers, one of which was no stranger at all. Hello again. Forgive me, we didn't exchange names last time. The man, the proper stranger, didn't react. The woman hissed, fury in her eyes. You killed him. Killed him and expect to have a civil conversation. Morgan tilted his head. You're the one that took a Padawan to a war zone. I honestly expected him to dodge. He put a hand to his chin, his helmet interrupting the gesture. I also seem to remember your code forbidding revenge. The man spoke, his voice calm. The code is a guideline. Tech-Arta was not a Padawan, Sith. He was a Jedi Knight and diplomat. He wasn't? Oh. Morgan shrugged, the open comm letting him hear Veta's voice as she argued with Quinn. He suppressed a smile at her fury, knowing he'd be twice as bad should the roles be reversed. They'd talked about it, however, so she'd do her job. Seems I've misunderstood my Sith dogma. Apologies. The woman snapped her jaw, the sound echoing loudly in the silence. Well, if revenge is allowed, then surely attacking someone unprovoked is too? Or are we waiting for someone? The man, who still hadn't introduced himself, shook his head. You're a strange one, Sith. You mean to destroy the reactors, letting the army above doom the future of this planet. We will not allow it. Morgan shrugged, palming his lightsaber slowly. I won't argue morality with a Jedi. Balmorra belongs to the Empire by treaty, however. I'd rather be on a beach, but you know how it goes. The woman, whose name he'd never learned, surged forward. Morgan blocked the first strike, only narrowly stepping back as the man came from the side. He frowned, feeling him flicker in and out of his perception. His knives flew, the man dodging one and cutting the other. The two halves fell, hitting the ground with a strangled whine. Morgan ignored it, slipping past the woman's guard to rake his lightsaber over her stomach. She jerked back, landing safely behind the man with little more than singed robes. Control your fury. This is not an opponent we can take lightly. The woman nodded reluctantly, Morgan feeling her wrath slip behind iron shields. When they came again, they did so together, slipping past each other to strike as one. Morgan backstepped, blocking one blow while narrowly dodging another. He looked at them both, decided he'd bought Quinn enough time, and made to retreat. The Force screamed as the lightsaber sheared through his armor, his side burning as it melted and blackened. He swung to clear space, the man backing up as the woman came in low. Morgan kicked at her, but she flowed around the strike to maim his leg. He barely managed to avoid losing his foot, jumping back to run. The man was there in a flash, forcing Morgan to slow down and defend. The woman caught up, letting the man step back to intercept him again. Fear tried to assert dominance in his mind. The low terror he had become so very familiar with under the Overseer. Morgan channeled it, tore at their minds, but felt smooth domes of power ward off his attack. He took the time it bought him to get clear, turning to flee. The man sheared through his neck, only his helmet buying him enough time to counter and force him back. This time he surged after the man, managing to grab his shoulder. He locked the muscles in the arm, the man's eyes widening in surprise. He jerked, tearing his shoulder but managing to get loose. Then the woman was there, forcing Morgan to backpedal. His reserves drained as they harassed him, his body accumulating wounds he couldn't spare the time to heal. Armor melted to his skin, horrid pain demanding attention. Morgan stepped back, judged the man to be the more dangerous of the two, and launched an attack numbering in the dozens. Power flared as his reserve plummeted, the man straining his face in concentration as he warded off the attack. Morgan plucked and twisted with his 40 tentacles of force, the man spreading himself thin to guard. Morgan knew firsthand how difficult that was. How splitting the force like that took practice. Concentration. He'd been training for weeks, ever since Lacris had given him a glimpse of what a Darth could do, and he could only summon 40. He was forced to withdraw before the shield could crack, the other Jedi rushing forwards. Morgan blocked as the man found his balance, hurriedly looking for a way out. He found none. He took more wounds as his armor melted and broke, what scraps of power he retained fueling his enforcement. His remaining knife lay on the ground, forgotten, its companion lying broken further down the hall. At least Quinn should have planted the charges by now. He thought. He better have. The man retaliated, his shield coming under attack as he dragged what little power remained to defend. The man looked back as a ripple came from the force, shaking his head as he focused. That's right, ignore the whispers in your mind. I'm the bigger threat, and you cleared the room properly. No soldiers planting explosives, no sir. His shield shattered, his enforcement following soon after. Morgan laughed, feeling the tiredness in his bones. Gods, haven't exhausted my power like that since Korriban. Figures it be 2 nights that did it. The woman stepped forward, lightsaber raised high. Now you die, Sith, she hissed. Like my Tekata did. Morgan's mind flashed to laughing faces stitched from shadow. To old things spawning seeds that grew into cults spanning the galaxy. To a man's mind in a holocron, enduring centuries after death. He laughed, hacking out blood. There is no death, there is only the Force. The woman seemed to care less than nothing for what he had to say. Morgan's mind turned to Veta, pushing warm affection into the Force as the void loomed. She wouldn't be able to feel it, especially not with a reinforced shield, but it felt like the right thing to do. As such, he didn't notice the man's frown. Only barely noticed how his scan swept over him, looking deeper than anyone had before. Morgan didn't notice how his eyes widened in utter surprise, lightsaber coming to hand. He did notice the woman whirl around, blocking the strike that would have taken her head. Morgan slipped out from under her, hobbling as fast as 2 damaged, unreinforced legs could carry him. The woman saw, trying to follow. The man blocked her, his face passive again as the woman shouted. Morgan turned a corner, trying to activate his comm. He shook his head as he grasped nothing, the scraps of his helmet on the floor behind him. He'd studied the maps the old-fashioned way, fortunately. He climbed a ladder, his legs screaming in protest as he ran down the hall. He ignored it, giving them what motes of force had returned to his core as apology. Veta saw him first, eyes widening as she took stock of him. Some ways behind her Quinn and the men held the corridor, Resistance members wearing Republic gear doing the same at the other end. Morgan sighed, leaning on and slipping down the wall. She scrambled up, jamming a colto syringe in his leg. What the fuck happened? 2 nights is just above my limit, I'd say. His attempt at humor fell flat, Veta trying to jam another needle in his leg. He stopped her. 1 is plenty. The other night turned on the woman, I don't know why. Are the explosives planted? Veta nodded, looking at Oras. The man turned as she spoke into her comm, pressing a button on his wrist. The facility shook, red lights and alarms starting to blare in the hall. Turns out they did know about the abandoned, sealed-over hallway. Unfortunately for them, I'm somewhat of an expert at trap disarmament. Why didn't one stay behind? Morgan shook his head, directing wisps of power to his side. He could feel the colto seal his internal injuries, his breathing coming easier. 1 wouldn't have been enough, and the woman was hellbent on killing me. Called that Padawan, or not Padawan, my Tekata. Apprentice or lover, probably. The man though. The way he moved, waited, attacked. It seemed familiar. He shook his head, looking down the hall. The fighting didn't seem to be going one way or the other, and he was in no shape to do anything about it. We still need to kill Commander Rylan. Screaming came down the hall, Quinn ordering his men to cease fire. Morgan looked over, seeing 2 blurs tear through the soldiers there. He grunted and stood, pushing off the wall so he was standing on his own power. Inara and Alyssa walked up in silence, both covered in blood. Veta tensed as they stopped before him, looking at his wounds. They shared a look, bowing after a second. "My lord." He suppressed a sigh of relief, far too tired to fight. "Good to see you both. Did Soft Voice send you?" Alyssa nodded. "Lord Zethix assigned us to this sector, to assist you if able. Are you all right, my lord?" "2 Jedi Knights beat the piss out of me, so no." "Inara, you've had flesh grafting training, correct?" The woman nodded, seeming to catch his meaning. She closed her eyes as power flowed, Morgan mixing it with his own. He knew she'd be losing double what he gained, never mind he had to be careful not to take too much of the dark without enough light. He mentally thanked Mirla anyway. That woman was twice as smart as she gave herself credit for. He forced the bone in his leg to snap back in place, wrapping it with a brace. Veta flinched at the sound. He left the rest of the wounds, starting to walk down the hallway. The 3 women followed close behind, Veta eyeing them suspiciously. "Lieutenant, do we know the current location of Commander Rylan?" Quinn shook his head, Oras answering. "He'll most likely be in his quarters, coordinating the defense." Morgan nodded, motioning them forward. Their first resistance was a patrol fortifying a door, the 2 Sith dogging his step surging forwards. The soldiers died screaming, Quinn's men half-heartedly assisting in the attack. Veta stuck to his side, eyes roaming. He turned to her, keeping his voice down. "I'm fine. Nothing a few hours of meditation won't fix." She snapped her eyes back to him, scowling. "We're still in the middle of a battlefield. So help me Goddess, you will never do something as stupid as that ever again." Morgan put his forehead to hers, basking in the worried love streaming from her in torrents. "I won't." She nodded, her scowl vanishing at his proximity. "I'd kiss you, but my stupid helmet is in the way. Consider yourself kissed." He grinned, planting a quick kiss on her faceplate. "Yes, ma'am." They moved forwards, Alyssa and Inara breaking any opposition in their way. It wasn't until they came to the office that they stopped, taking position at the door. Morgan spent precious power enforcing his leg, kicking the door down as they did the same. Their combined strength rocketed the steel slab inwards, revealing an empty office. Well, that was anticlimactic. He ignored them, striding inside to look around. Quinn joined him, pointing to a console. "There. Oras, give us camera access. Chillins, take the rest of the men and secure this position." The men saluted, leaving just the 5 of them in the room. Oras got to work, Morgan taking a seat and closing his eyes. Veta shook him out of it a while later, looking at his side. "That looks better." Oras found Rylan. "He's in the administrative complex, top floor." He nodded, standing. His wounds did feel better, using as little power as possible to guide Kolto to the most critical injuries. He made a mental note to talk with Mirla about that. It made the stuff significantly more useful without consuming much power. The elevator was easy enough to find, and with 3 Sith the complement of droids guarding it were less than sufficient. "Lieutenant," Morgan said as the doors closed. "Update on the assault, if you please." Quinn turned to him, idly tapping his pistol. "Sir. The main armored division has broken through the outer defenses and has begun destroying entrenched positions. Without their shield the resistance is facing heavy losses, and several special forces units led by one Captain Kripar have broken through to the inner facility. That's where we split off to come assist you, my lord." Inara piped up. "Lord Kripar and his men are hunting priority targets and stealing money." Quinn coughed pointedly. "He is appropriating enemy supplies, yes. Please note this information is 10 to 15 minutes old." Morgan nodded, the doors opening. "Very good. Let's kill Commander Rylan and see if we can't help out." The hallways and offices were abandoned, lone squads of droids all they came across. Alyssa and Inara burned through them with vigor, needling about kill counts. Greta spoke as they returned, curiosity mixed with trepidation in her voice. "What's the prize?" Alyssa turned to her, disdain only barely suppressed on her features. Inara elbowed her, shooting a look at Morgan. She rearranged her expression into something more neutral. "Bragging rights, along with more material gains. It's who gets to wear the strap-on." Inara broke in excitedly. "You won't believe the toys we found here, it's amazing. Did you know they have double-sided ones these days?" Veta sniggered as Greta bleached white, stammering a reply. Morgan rolled his eyes, looking them over. "This is hardly the time." Alyssa dragged Inara away with the excuse of scouting. She was whispering furiously, shooting dismayed looks back to them. Veta burst out laughing, elbowing Quinn in the side. "I have no idea what you're talking about," he said stiffly. "In fact, my helmet seemed to have mysteriously blocked all incoming sound for the last half-minute." "Isn't that right?" The soldiers chanted their agreement, fiddling with their equipment. Veta rolled her eyes, shooting him a displeased look. "All that blackmail material, wasted. I think they prefer their lives." Morgan replied dryly. They finally came to the administration complex, cautiously walking inside. Rows of abandoned cubicles, offices and meeting rooms blocked their sight, the battle outside making his force perception less than useful. 30 Sith participating in the battle was good for everything but accuracy, the dark drawing thick over the factory. Veta spotted them before anyone, her sniper coming up and firing in a smooth motion. A gargled scream was heard before the room burst into chaos, the 2 Sith at his side surging forwards. "Go, I'll find Rylan," Morgan ordered, jumping high. He landed among the beams supporting the roof, wide enough to walk on. He startled a soldier hidden there almost as badly as himself, his lightsaber flicking out smoothly regardless. The beams led him deeper into the complex, keeping him out of sight. What soldiers he spotted he ignored, hunting for Rylan. Morgan finally spotted a Soul Man highly focused on the console in front of him, images of the battle flickering on screen. He observed the room, no sight of the Sith killer droids, or anyone, to be seen. He'd have kept them close. Keep them for an ambush, maybe. Morgan dropped, ignoring the way his legs screamed and bones shifted as he landed. The force brace held, if barely, and he watched Rylan whirl around. The force surged through his arm as his lightsaber whined, a headless corpse falling to the ground. He picked up the head, suspicious, but found Rylan face staring back after removing the helmet. He pulled up an image of the man to be sure, finding it to be a match. He shrugged, turning around to rejoin the battle. When he got back it turned out to be unnecessary, 3 soldiers on their knees surrounded by a sea of dead. He hadn't been gone for 2 minutes. Inara giggled, pushing Alyssa playfully as the pureblood scowled. "I told you, pay up." Alyssa used his return to abandon her, bowing as blood dripped from her face. "My lord. We kept their captain alive for interrogation." Morgan nodded, scanning the room. He found 2 of his own dead on the floor, Veta kneeling by Greta's corpse. He joined her, putting a hand on her shoulder and looking at the dead scout. Veta looked back, patting the hand and standing as shallow grief was buried. He looked at the woman, bowing his head. Then he turned, nodded to the corpse of another of his men, and joined Quinn. The lieutenant was jamming a needle of colter into Oras, the specialist lacking both arms and a leg. Morgan found it nearby, picking it up and pushing it against the stump. Oras groaned weakly, trying to scoot back. Quinn stuck a needle in his neck, the man staring uncomprehendingly at his lieutenant before drooping his eyes. Morgan nodded thankfully. "Keep him still." He used what power he had left to fuse the bone, wrapping it in a layer of muscle before his reserves sputtered and emptied. Jillins came running with a cast, Quinn wrapping it around the leg. The man finally looked at him, nodding. Complex emotion whirled through him, relief most prominent. "Thank you. He might keep the leg." Morgan checked his work, nodding. "We can hope." "What happened?" "They were good," Quinn chuckled humorously. "That's it. If it wasn't for those two, we'd all be dead. He nodded to Alyssa, who was busy furiously whispering to her girlfriend. They don't care for any of us, of course. They're here because of you. Morgan shook his head. Don't downplay your own work, Lieutenant. I'm sorry about Greta, and he trailed off, looking at the other dead soldier. I'm sorry. I didn't even know his name. Arliss. He preferred to keep to himself. Quinn was silent, looking between the dead and the living. It would have been a lot worse if you hadn't been here, sir. You wouldn't be here if it wasn't for me. He denied, turning. Horace is stable. Patch up the men while I talk to our prisoners. 2 of them were rank and file, though tougher than he was used to. They had fear, but it was mastered. Controlled. Their captain was much the same, but unfortunately for him he had something Morgan wanted. Why wasn't there some last trap? One more clever play? Ryland died, but no Beskar reinforced droids to be found. The captain spat, resignation taking hold as he glared. We've been trying. Those droids were supposed to be Sith killers. The billion-credit invention of the Hutts. No idea how the commander managed to borrow some, but he did. The man scowled. Then you destroyed 2, somehow. Supposed to be impossible. No lightsaber can scratch them. No force powers can tear them apart. The Hutts demanded an immediate return of their investment, of course. Damn near drained our accounts. And that was it. Just like that. What do you want me to say? The captain asked tiredly. You killed his son. 30 Sith were tearing the resistance apart. We fought, we lost. Now fuck off and let me rest. Morgan agreed, lightsaber coming to hand as Greta's face flashed through his mind. 3 heads rolled, and he turned back to his men. Pack up, we're done here. The speaker whined, a booming voice echoing through the room. Quinn snapped his pistol up as Gillen's grabbed a grenade, both relaxing when no threat presented itself. This is Grand Marshal Cheketa, Supreme Commander of all Republic troops on the planet of Balmorra. I, and the men I led here, are in violation of the Treaty of Coruscant. All forces under my command are to surrender. The Empire has made assurances that prisoners of war will be treated fairly. The speaker cut off, the voice of his friend coming over scant seconds later. This is Lord Zethix, commander of the Imperial forces assaulting the Balmorran arms factory. All surrendering Republic troops are to be disarmed and placed under arrest. No harm will be done to them. The resistance has surrendered. Long live the Empire. Veta stretched beside him, forcing humor in her tone as she took off her helmet. Well, all in a day's work. If you'll excuse me, my looting senses are tingling. I'll pick you up something nice, don't worry. She made to leave, Morgan grabbing her shoulder. She twirled, her leku bouncing freely as her eyes widened in surprise. He kissed her, pressing his forehead to her own. I love you. Be careful. Veta shuddered, her pupils dilating as a smile took over her features. I love you too. Then she was gone, a bounce in her step as Morgan turned to Quinn. Get the men proper medical care, I'll go find Soft Voice. The lieutenant nodded, the men trudging after him with tired frames. Horace was carried on a fold-out stretcher, the 2 dead carried by hand. Alyssa and Inara looked at him questioningly, Morgan motioning for them to follow. Imperial soldiers were everywhere as they walked through the facility, many saluting as they walked past. He ignored them, only briefly speaking to a captain to get his friend's location. Soft Voice was deep in conversation with Mila and the Admiral as they arrived, the 2 Sith following him sticking close. Soft Voice raised an eyebrow as he approached, taking in his appearance. You look like shit. 2 knights were waiting for me. I foolishly assumed there would only be one, but here we are. Mila flicked her datapad. Here. 1 Jedi Knight Mashallan, dead by decapitation with a lightsaber. Well done, my lord. Morgan looked at the Admiral, Soft Voice dismissing the man with a wave. His fists tightened, but he left all the same. Not exactly. 2 knights seem to be more than my equal. I lie. 2 Jedi beat me like a rented mule and were seconds away from killing me. One of them, the one that isn't currently dead, turned on Mashallan. Before you ask, no, I don't know why. Soft voice frowned. At the risk of stating the obvious, that's more than a little abnormal. One of Barras's spies. The man would rather let me die than burn an agent in the Order. No. Whoever he answers to, it isn't Barras. Myrla shrugged helplessly. Morgan sighed. Very well. How did the rest of the battle go? She cleared her throat. Casualties are light, with Lord Zethix forcing an early surrender. The destruction of their shield generator allowed our armored companies near free reign over their lines, not to mention our Sith advantage. Only Lord Zethix encountered Jedi, the rest of the Anosis free to hunt priority targets. We estimate nearly 40% of their officers died within the first 20 minutes of the battle. Soft voice took over, smiling grimly. Cheketa had a master and Padawan with him. The learner died easily enough, the master not so much. Took me, Kripa and Astra to match him, and even then he still took 4 of the old guard with him. Morgan sighed. Who did we lose? Anna, Corin, Elran, and Sarah. Faces flickered in memory, hours of training and sparring coming to the forefront. Shit. You all right? His friend shrugged. Soldiers die. I don't like it, but it's the way of the galaxy. They died well, fighting for something they believed in. I would like to go the same way when my time comes. Myrla looked at his leg, frowning. Wait, is that broken? Medic. Morgan contemplated telling her he'd only need a few hours of rest before he could fix it himself, but by then 2 medics were already prodding at his leg. Oh well. I hope Vetta's having fun. She skipped along the outdoor hangar, rows of ships lining up beside her. Imperial troops were light this deep in the factory, and what few thought to question her presence hastily got out of her way when a Sith's identification popped up in their visors. Goddess, that's amazing. Almost makes stealing too easy. At least getting those schematics for army was somewhat challenging. Can't believe Morgan forgot about that. She passed by the Republic's BT-7 Thunderclaps without stopping, their build far too non-imperial to be of use. A Conrad's Vindicator drew her eye, towering over everything else. She'd never get it off the ground alone. Still, scrapping that thing could get us an easy 20 million. Shame. Veta eyed construction materials, large diggers and drills left where they stood. They must have been building this little staging point for years. Oh, the money that could be made. Tucked in the back, partly hidden by the bulk of the Conrad's Vindicator, was a surprise. Now that looks like a Terminus-class destroyer. Why is it so small? Ma'am? A corporal asked hesitantly. Is there something we can assist you with? She turned, seeing 3 soldiers had come walking up. That ship. How big do you reckon it is? The corporal looked, the 2 soldiers beside her quiet and still. 600 feet, give or take? I do think you're right. Why, then, does it look like a Terminus-class destroyer? Those should be well over 1,500 feet, never mind quite a bit taller. I don't know, ma'am. May I inquire as to the nature of your inquiry? How many Marines does a normal Terminus-class destroyer have? She asked, ignoring the question. Another of the soldiers spoke, barely containing his excitement. 500 crew and about 300 Marines, ma'am. And this one, scaled down as it is? The soldier put a hand to his chin, looking over the ship. Logic says roughly a third, ma'am. I served on one, you know? My first post, back when I was in the Marines. Loved that ship. Still do. A ship lover, good. What are the differences between this one and a normal one, as far as you can tell? The man stepped forward, not seeing or ignoring the harsh hand signs made by his superior. Well, the iron cannon is gone. Probably drained too much power from the smaller engine. Half the turbolasers seem to have joined it, likely for the same reason. Otherwise it looks fine. Plenty of laser turrets and missile launchers. Armor looks thick, more so than even the proper-sized version. Room for 5 or so fighters, maybe 2 shuttles. I'd have to see inside to be sure. Vetter nodded thoughtfully. What's it doing here? The soldier shrugged, stepping back. No idea, ma'am. Stolen? Valmora produces plenty of military ships and even more custom civilian vessels. Doesn't seem impossible for the resistance to have taken it. She clapped her hands together. It's perfect. Corporal, you're categorizing the ships? Ma'am. The woman agreed. Excellent. I'm taking it. The corporal lost what color she had left, stuttering. I don't think I can allow you to do that, ma'am. These ships belong to the Empire. Nonsense. Zethix won't mind, I'm sure. It's a present for Morgan. He's been very good to me, so I'd like to do something in return. The woman looked uncomprehendingly until the so far silent soldier whispered something in her ear. She straightened, fear flashing through her eyes. Ma'am. I'll have to ask Lord Zethix for permission. Vetter waved, already walking forward. Fine. I'm taking this now, though. Here's hoping I can still fly. 20 minutes and 1 manual override later found her shuffling in the pilot's seat as the ship came to life beneath her, a very nervous corporal standing close. You didn't have to come, you know. Orders, ma'am. Besides, Harold seems happy. The ship enthusiast was sitting in the captain's seat, gleefully spinning around. Vetter approved of his attitude. Far too many stiff soldiers in the Empire. Say, Corporal, how'd you like a new job? Ma'am? I'm being proactive. Quinn could use more good men, assuming I can convince him to tag along. You 3 seem like fine soldiers. The corporal flinched. We'd be working for a Sith, ma'am. No offense. Meet him, then decide. I'm sure someone went tattling to him the moment I appropriated the ship and he's waiting for us at the spaceport. The corporal fell silent, Vetter concentrating on flying the destroyer. It was a short trip to Sobrik, and after a clipped talk with a panicked customs agent she landed the ship. I'm Vetter, by the way. Nice to meet you. Corporal Helen. This is Specialist Harold and Private Mute. Don't ask, he chose the name when he joined. The quiet man nodded to her solemnly, Vetter waving back. They departed, stepping in a turbolift as it took them down. The doors opened to a bandaged Morgan, Alyssa and Inara standing behind him. The 3 soldiers stiffened, Vetter bounding forward. She kissed him as he caught her, laughing. I knew someone snitched. Come on, tell me you were a little surprised. Morgan sighed, setting her down. That you stole a destroyer? Not as much as I should have been. This better not be the present you were talking about. Hesitation coiled in her gut. You don't like it? It's. Childlike glee shot through his eyes, gone in a moment. She caught it anyway, smirking. That's not the point. There's just the 2 of us, Vetter. How are we supposed to fly that thing, let alone fight with it? She bounced in place. I knew you'd like it. I'll think of something, don't worry. I'd like you to meet some people. Morgan introduced himself as she watched, trying not to grin. It really was adorable how he tried to not frighten new people. If only he knew a polite, well-spoken Sith was twice as terrifying. The 2 women dogging his every step didn't help. Then they were off, Vetter exchanging a wave with the corporal. So why are these 2 lovebirds following you? Morgan sighed. Mila's idea. Soft voice went along with it to fuck with me, I'm sure. Now I can't get rid of them. You poor thing. 2 hot, dangerous women as your bodyguards, obeying your every order. I feel for you, truly. He grinned, looking at her. Jealous? Considering they're as gay can get, no. I'll ask before recruiting more women into my harem. He promised. I was thinking of 7 to start with, but I'll value your opinion. She snorted. You can barely handle me, never mind 6 more. That's true. He admitted easily. Besides, why would I need anyone else when I can just take you against this wall right now? She stuttered in her step. We're in public. Right, yes. It would simply be awful if these people thought less of me. Wouldn't be able to handle it, really. He looked at her, a blush on her features as she resolutely stared ahead. "Oh, I'm sorry, was that too indirect?" He leaned close, whispering into her ear. "How about I put a gag on you, bind your hands and stick a vibrator in your ass? Doesn't that sound nice, having you shuffle along like a good slut, trying desperately not to come?" Her breath quickened as heat shot through her, her hands unconsciously settling behind her back. Morgan laughed. "Anyway, we're here. I'll go have a talk with Barras and Quinn while you entertain these two." He disappeared through a door before she could blink, shutting the door behind him. That utter bastard. Inara set her hand on her shoulder, Veta managing to resist jumping in surprise. The life of a sub can be difficult. If that was supposed to be reassuring, it wasn't. She glared. How dare he, winding me up like that and then leaving? I'll show him. He'll have to beg and plead before he's allowed to touch me again. Sure. Alyssa drew out the word, shooting her an unimpressed look. Like you wouldn't fold the moment he snapped his fingers and told you to sit. That's. She paused, considering. None of your business, now that I think about it. Inara snorted as they started whispering, walking some ways away. She waited impatiently, minutes ticking by before the door opened again. When Morgan finally returned, her retort died on her lips. He looked serious, Quinn walking beside him. To give a short recap, we're being deployed to Nar Shaddaa. I can keep the ship, but I'll have to staff and fund it myself. Quinn has been promoted to captain, and allowed to choose his next assignment. She breathed as a deluge of emotions hit, her protests forgotten. Nar Shaddaa? He nodded sympathetically. Indeed. I have some unfinished business with Quinn, but we can grab some dinner in the room after. She nodded, Morgan giving her a quick kiss before leaving. She suddenly found herself without a distraction and far too many conflicting feelings, idling as his bodyguards moved in step behind him. Army. Right, I can finish that up. Should get enough money to fuel the ship until the next planet. Army was easier to be found than last time, yet there was a complication. A door, guarded by one very adamant thug refusing to open it. The Jawa looked up in surprise as the door opened, the guard's body slumping outside. Veta stalked, the storm of emotions swirling in her shifting to irritation. She acknowledged it, breathing deeply to regain calm. She looked at the Jawa, folding her arms. Her stare was blocked by the Gamrian guard, Army having promptly hidden behind his massive legs when the door opened. Dear customer. Did the guard displease you? I do apologize, we will. The droid was making calming motions as it talked, walking to stand between her and the Jawa. Veta's irritation spiked, the protocol droids backing up as she pushed it aside. You can speak basic, and so will do me the courtesy of talking yourself. Now, I have your schematics. Unfortunately, I've been having a somewhat up and down day. She leaned forward, the Gamrian shifting. Veta laughed. My day, so far, has consisted of killing a worldwide rebellion, stealing a destroyer and losing a friend. Get the fuck out of my way before I strip your corpse for parts. Please, no violence. I'm a man of business, yes. Army waved at the guard, walking forward and speaking in smooth basic. Your exploits have been noted. What is it you desire? She pulled up her datapad, sending over the schematics. There, our deal is done. Now we're going to secure a new one. You are a valued customer, yes? What is it you wish? More armor? More Beskar bullets? Army can get it for you, yes? No violence needed. Veta leaned forward. You are going to accept a job. A job? Army asked curiously. What kind? The kind where you work for me, and I take 15% of your profits. Army paused, tilting his head. He spoke after a few seconds, laughing. You travel with Sith, no customs. I see, I see. Yes, I accept. Where are you going? Narshada, she said, managing to keep her tone level. I suppose you have contacts there? The Jawa nodded, turning to the protocol droid. I can have someone bring 4 crates of goods to your ship, assuming you have a man there to accept. She didn't. I do. Slavery is off the table. In fact, if I catch you dealing in the flesh trade, I will kill you myself. Army nodded rapidly, waving his hands. The slave trade is bad business. I deal in technology. Weapons. Veta stuck her hand out, the Jawa shaking it. Welcome to the crew. I expect great things from you, my furry friend. Great things. Morgan walked into the hospital room assigned to Oras, Quinn dogging his step. Seems like someone is always following me these days. He thought glumly. And I just managed to get rid of Alyssa and Inara too. The specialist was awake, looking at 2 mechanical arms set beside him. Smooth skin covered them, wires starting where the arms ended. He didn't look up until Quinn cleared his throat, stiffening. His left stump twitched, trying to move an arm no longer there. Specialist. Captain Quinn has been promoted, and given leave to choose his next assignment. He has chosen to enter my service. So has Jillian's, and all but one of your squad. The man nodded, looking at Quinn. He sounded calm. Resigned. Congratulations, Captain. If anyone deserves it, it's you. Oras turned to Morgan, blinking. Didn't take you for the cruel kind. I'll be in bed for weeks, and it'll be months before the arms fuse and I've learned to use them. Unless you want to drag a cripple along for the ride, I'm going nowhere fast. Quinn stiffened, keeping his peace. Morgan nodded calmly. I've read your case. SynthNet neural interface biomechanical arms, cutting edge. When fused, as you put it, you'll have full sensation and function, not to mention a not insignificant boost in strength. The biomechanical part of those arms intrigued me, however, so I'm here to make you an offer. He held up his hand. Sorry, no. That sounds like I want something in return. You've bled for me. Fought for me. As I told Jillian's, loyalty for loyalty. Respect for respect. I can fuse these arms for you. Compress months of work into minutes. Learning to use them will be up to you, but you could be walking around within the next half hour. Oras twitched, looking surprised. I don't understand. What's the offer? The choice? Risk. This will be my first time connecting cybernetic components to a nervous system, and as such I cannot guarantee success. There will also be pain. A lot of pain. But I can come with? Look after Jillian's? Morgan inclined his head. If that is your wish, yes. Please note that while Quinn and most of your squad have chosen to enter my service, it is not mandatory. One has left, and no ill fate has befallen him. Oras kept silent, thinking. It didn't last long. Do it. Morgan stepped forward, one of the arms gently floating forwards. It settled against the stump, Oras suppressing a grimace. Quinn, get him something to bite on. I'll need to measure brain activity in response to stimuli, so no anesthesia. Oras nodded, bit down, and nodded again. Morgan closed his eyes, reaching out and wrapping the force around the specialist hole. He stiffened, but otherwise didn't react. Fleshcrafters are some of the best healers alive, rivaled only by Jedi. Where they use the light, we use the dark, a lie, but not an important one. Oras didn't seem to care either way, jaw tight as he bit down. It's strange. Healing seems to come naturally to me. Not much does, no matter how it looks. But regrowth? The mending of flesh and bone, of tissue and muscle? It flows. Oras grasped as nerves connected to the arm, its fingers contracting wildly. His eyes were locked on it, the medical stick falling from his mouth. Quinn forced it back. There. This is the part that's going to hurt. Morgan removed the block on the largest nerve cluster in his shoulder, letting the specialist's mind properly experience the new connection. The man screamed. Focus on my voice. Where are you from, soldier? Corellia. Morgan tweaked a nerve, the man spasming. Left a long time ago. Not much left for me there. He reworked an improperly fused connection, Oras panting as sweat dripped from his face. Used to go to a bakery. There was a girl there I was sweet on. Long time ago. So long. Morgan worked as the man talked, smoothing and correcting as he went. Then it was done, Oras staring at his new hand. I'm afraid that's only half of it. Quinn, strap that hand down. I'd rather it doesn't try and hit me. Double bindings, it's strong. He walked into his room 2 hours later, finding Veta already there. She was bundled in blankets as some inane hollow played on the screen, waving. You missed dinner. I know, sorry. Bumped into that new friend of yours, Harold something. Kept me busy. She scooted over, patting the seat. He snorted and sat down, Veta draping herself over him immediately. Oh? Is he going to be joining us? Quinn's dealing with it. That and finding us a crew for our new ship. According to him, captains will be lining up, or near enough. Seems working for a Sith is good for one's career. Veta hummed, watching cold food levitate from the kitchen as she rearranged the blankets. At least heat that up, you barbarian. I'm starting a criminal empire, by the way. That's nice. Should help with our money problems, if nothing else. How'd that come to be? Morgan ate as she talked, barely tasting the food. Army agreed? Just like that. Criminal stuff is all about connections. He refuses and I could well return with a couple Sith, he agrees and now it's in my interest to keep his business going. To expand it. He's a smart one. Figures he'd make more working with me than not. I'll keep him in line. He set the empty plate aside, nodding. Good, haven't the slightest clue how to run a syndicate. I'll just stand there all menacing every now and then, your shadowy, terrifying boss keeping an eye out. She snorted, shifting until her head was on his shoulder. That'll do it. You doing all right? He shrugged, feeling her head resist the motion. 2 people died because I rushed off to kill Rylan. He was just standing there, doing nothing. You didn't know that. She grabbed his head, twisting it so he was looking at her. Listen to me. People die. They'll keep dying, especially in our line of work. Learn from your mistakes, mourn, move on. Anything else will chip away at your soul, taking bit after bit until nothing's left. He nodded, pulling her closer. I didn't care, before. Death was a staple, sliding off me like water. Now it's different, and I don't know why. Because now they're yours, just like I am. Morgan leaned his head on hers, breathing in her perfume. How about you? I didn't even try to untangle the whirlwind of emotion when you heard about Nar Shaddaa. Old history, she said slowly. I'll deal with it, don't worry. He caught her hand, locking his fingers with hers. Your problems are mine. I want to help, if I can. I know. I'll tell you if I need it, promise. Quinn kept his back ramrod straight as Lord Barras's image came to life, looming over him. Captain. Did my wayward apprentice accept your offer? He did, my lord. I am to command his military forces on board the Aurora, his new custom Terminus-class destroyer. Barras radiated satisfaction, leaning closer. Very good, Captain. A Sith takes what he wants, it's about time my apprentice started acting like it. Quinn nodded, failing to mention it was Veta, not Morgan, that took it. I will keep you up to date on his actions and movements, my lord. As I commanded. Do you have anything else to report? The captain hesitated, Barras flicking his hand. Out with it. Lord Morgan and his Twi'lek have begun a sexual relationship, my lord. Barras snorted, leaning back in disinterest. That's what slaves are for. He's young, he'll get it out of his system. Continue your work and keep me informed, Captain. Quinn didn't correct him, saluting as the image cut off. And here I thought my days of Sith politics would be over. Foolish of me. He buried the guilt as he got back to work, reading over the list of captains. Well over 30 had applied, twice as many as even his most generous prediction. Too young. Too reckless. Known for seducing and sleeping with her superiors. She'll be dead within minutes of Veta finding out. Too old school. The list shrunk as he worked, interrupted sometime later by Gillen's. Sir. The 3 new men are settling in and Lieutenant Helen is finding her footing. Quinn looked up, noting the tightness of the younger man's shoulders. She had seniority, corporal, not to mention an exemplary record. Your time will come. Sir. That's not it, sir. I understand I cannot be promoted without at least a year of active service. It's the men. They feel we should be more selective with our recruitment. He put down his datapad, folding his hands on the desk. Speak freely, Corporal. What's the problem? Gillen's relaxed, leaning against the wall. Quinn almost smiled at the easy confidence. Oras came back this morning, said the Sith attached his arms in minutes. Pete won't stop talking about how the Sith saved his life, swearing some native blood oaths whenever he gets drunk. We feel that we should choose new recruits with care. Make sure they fit in. And how would we do that, Corporal? Gillen straightened, eyes flashing. Recruit them out of boot camp. The young and promising, those without previous attachments. Keep the officers in-house, promoting instead of bringing in fresh faces whenever possible. Quinn massaged his forehead, finding he didn't disagree. He almost snorted at the irony. Good way to keep out spies. Shame about the one at the top. I'll take it under advisement, Corporal. Dismissed. Gillen saluted, leaving him alone in the room. Quinn got back to work, mumbling softly. Duty above all. Duty. But duty to whom? His mind questioned insistently. To the master or apprentice? John, his mind accepting the new name with ease born from long practice, calmly walked out of the offices of the sphere of production and logistics. He firmly reminded himself he was just another bureaucrat, out on lunch. He had not banished the thought, hacked and altered their servers. That would be illegal. He hummed an old tune as sunlight streamed through the trees, his datapad chiming. He picked it up, finding an information packet waiting for him. He sat on a low wall, reading and deleting the message in short order. Nar Shaddaa, eh? Veta won't be happy about that one. Nor with me, but that's all right. John spied a restaurant serving pasta, hopping off his seat. You're a slave for now, little one. Better than Barras finding out he can use you as leverage against your master. One of his locals sent an update, informing him 2 strange men had been seen delivering goods to the Aurora. John snorted, his tales knowing better than to intervene. Smuggling. That's illegal, Veta. Could get you in trouble. He sighed, pulling up his datapad to purge his local network. It's going to be a pain setting this up again on Nar Shaddaa. At least the Enosis won't be there, that's going to make it easier. Only thing worse than a gaggle of Sith is an organized, devoted gaggle of Sith. John Doe reclined, finishing off his dish and tipping the server. Whatever will you be doing on the smuggler's moon, my dear Morgan? Maybe my old bones will get to see some excitement after all.